one day in Manhattan neighborhood network land.
We are here at the eminent Barrio Firehouse Community Media Center, where upstairs, the third floor, is where we first started the Spotlight 5 years ago. And the best part about it is, we're taking you exclusively inside at the third floor of what was once known as the Youth Media Center, and where the Spotlight first began 5 years ago.
Start over again. I had the wrong friend.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't him. I'm gonna cut off your head.
You were cutting off my head, Stan. Get your mind right.
Libbity bibbity.
Hi. It's the Spotlight from their former home studio at the MNN El Barrio Firehouse in New York. The eye of the midterms. As Election Day gets near and early voting is underway across the nation, Democrats are hoping to maintain their narrow control of the Senate and the House of Representatives, while Republicans are aiming to wrest away both chambers. From Democratic Pennsylvania Senate candidate John Fetterman speaking out in an exclusive TV interview since his stroke that has led to an NBC reporter slammed for comments on John Fetterman off camera, to whether Kari Lake will accept the results of this year's midterm election.
I'm going to win the election and I will accept that result.
If you lose, will you accept that?
I'm going to win the election and I will accept that result.
Plus, in this week's Guiding Spotlight, David Martinez sits down exclusively with Brooklyn Law School professor Bill Araiza on how the Mueller report impacted a wide range of turning events for former President Trump and the important facts to know going forward. Then, we're taking you inside exclusively to this year's Lincoln Center Summer for the City summer-long event that had individuals coming together to celebrate and share the moments for collective remembering. And she's one of the 3 young people eager to pursue a career in the public service across the country to create a positive change in the world for the better. Chrisel Martinez of the Serving Change Road Trip Nation documentary series is this week's guest co-host. And Emily Doubilet is back as this week's guest co-host. Now, let's get it on and get this Spotlight party started. Coming to you from the George C. Stoney studio at the MNN El Barrio Firehouse Community Media Center in New York.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Spotlight. Welcome to the Spotlight. Welcome
To the Spotlight.
Yes. So, Via is taking some personal time off. Crystal Askew is also currently taking some time off to focus on her master's degree at John Jay College. And joining us back as guest co-host is the one and only Emily Doubilet here. And
Thank you.
yes, also joining us as guest co-host this week, we're glad to have a bright future filmmaker who is serving change in her new series called Road Trip Nation, seen on PBS.org. I also have to call her my long-lost cousin here, but it's Chrisel Martinez. They're here, you know?
Yay,
welcome.
Chrisel. It's a
You
pleasure
know?
to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
Thank
So how's everybody? We're back. We've been doing month-long shows here
Yes.
at the Firehouse, revisiting our old location, you know? Yes, so...
It's a nice place to be.
Yeah, I know. So, shall we get into this?
Please.
Because we got a lot to talk about. So,
We do.
yes, John Fetterman, the Pennsylvania Senate candidate, sat down for his first TV interview since suffering a stroke back in May. Now, the reporter that interviewed him, which is NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns, talked about how special accommodations were made and her experience with him off camera. Take a look at this.
Dasha, we teased your story a moment ago, your sit-down with John Fetterman. This is the first face-to-face sit-down that he's done since his stroke. What was it like? How was his health?
Yeah, Katie, let's just set the stage here. I mean, we are 4 Tuesdays away from voters heading to the polls here. And some folks have already submitted their mail-in ballots. I'm standing in front of the Board of Elections building where people are today, dropping off their ballots. And this is, as you mentioned, the first time that Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman has sat down in person for an interview with a journalist since his stroke. Now, Fetterman has always been an unconventional candidate, but this is a particularly unconventional interview. I will tell you, I sat down with him at his home back in May before the stroke. This was very different, including literally what the setup looked like. You'll hear him talk in just a moment as I preview some of our conversation about needing closed captioning for this interview. We had a monitor set up so that he could read my questions because he still has lingering auditory processing issues as a result of the stroke, which means he has a hard time understanding what he's hearing. Now, once he reads the question, he's able to understand. You'll hear he also still has some problems, some challenges with speech. And I'll say, Katie, that just in some of the small talk prior to the interview, before the closed captioning was up and running, it did seem that he had a hard time understanding our conversations. And I'll just let you take a listen to some of what we talked about here.
You've been on this road of recovery. I'm sure it hasn't been easy. This is a serious health condition. This is a serious health issue that you experienced. What has that recovery process been like? How has it changed your day-to-day experience?
It's everything. It changes everything.
Yeah.
Everything about it has changed. Basically, having a conversation with your wife, to having a conversation with your children, just things, especially early after the stroke, the ability to really understand exactly what I'm being heard but it gets much, much better where I take in a lot. But to be precise, I use captioning. So that's really the major challenge. And every now and then I'll miss a word every now and then, or sometimes I'll maybe mush two words together. But as soon as I have captioning, I'm able to understand exactly what's being asked. But even after the stroke, immediately after that, I was able to read everything and I haven't lost any memories or anything like that. It's just really the lingering issue that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I know before this you've admitted you hadn't really thought about your health very much. You hadn't taken great care of yourself. What's it like now for you? Is there some frustration in having to face this, every day?
It's not frustration. It's just a challenge, actually. And I always thought I was pretty empathetic. Emphatic. I think I was empathetic. That's an example of the stroke, empathetic. Yeah. I always thought I was very empathetic before having a stroke. But now after having that stroke, I really understand, much more kind of the challenges that Americans have day in and day out.
So Fetterman's doctor wrote a letter saying that this is a processing issue. He has no cognitive impairment and is fit to serve. But John Fetterman has yet to release any other medical records. And folks are saying and wondering why he hasn't released any of his medical records. But he suffered the stroke back on May 13th, and his health has emerged as a major issue in the campaign here. And I'm reading from the Los Angeles Times saying that the early version of the story said that the NBC News interview was Fetterman's first on-camera interview since his stroke. They claim that it's not. I'm not sure if it was or not, but we're just gonna go with that here. But is John Fetterman being transparent about his health even while he's campaigning? What do you think of this?
Whew, this is a really tough issue, isn't it? I mean, I'm going to throw it to Chrisel.
Oh.
Why don't you, you seem to be...
Yeah, impassioned, right? I'm so interested even in the language that they use to describe the condition that he's in. I think it just shows a lot of the lack of empathy. Right? You could even see in the interview, he's trying to be empathetic and he can't even say the word, right? And what does that say about how his priorities have now shifted, especially him being an elected official? There's something there that I think it's higher than what we're seeing right now that he's supposed to experience, just so that he can have more connectivity to his communities, right? And I also think we get to see how in America there's a glaze of superficiality, and once you're not a perfect cookie cutter image, right, especially as a representative, you're immediately annexed, right? Even subtly, right? Through the media and then people's portrayals of you. So it's a really interesting take on how we are lacking support sometimes in the real human issues that our elected officials are facing. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that he has this opportunity to raise awareness about more Americans with disabilities and, what being accessible really means and what using captions to conduct an interview means, and that it should be accommodated not only on camera, but in the day-to-day lives, of a lot of people living with disabilities. And I think this whole, is he fit? Is he being transparent? Is definitely rubbing me the wrong way. Same. And I'm like,
How
you
so?
guys should have some empathy. Like Chrisel said.
Right.
I mean, I understand the need if someone's running to represent us in political office, they need to be of sound mind.
Right.
He seemed of sound mind to me from that interview.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing the best he can from what I'm looking at it here, but it's like, some people just don't seem to want to take their time to try to understand their disability of what they're going through, because it's just showing a lack of respect right there in their disability and their health that they're going through, because but listen, I know one thing for a fact: no matter what happens, John Fetterman is a strong guy.
Yeah.
He's well fitted, better than that stupid Dr. Oz here, all right, who is a Republican from New Jersey trying to run in Pennsylvania. I still don't understand why here. Snooki, I need your assistance again to troll him because he's getting on my nerves.
Was Snooki trolling him through...
Trying to, campaigning for Fetterman. Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. Wasn't that through that
Twitter.
app where they...
Yes.
You pay celebrities to say announcements.
Yes, that app.
Yes.
Right. Yep. Well said.
That's right. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Snooki, we need you on Fetterman's side for this one.
Yeah, beat Dr. Oz's ass, who, by the way, gives a lot of false health information about, everything else, who's trying to side with who.
We're lacking a conservative voice here on the spotlight, but,
No, well.
But I think that, if his doctor says, he is of sound cognitive mind, back to the Fetterman issue.
Yeah.
But I think it's a valid question to ask: is someone fit? But it just shows the way people are going about it seems to show a lack of empathy and just how many Americans are not accommodated with their own disability. It kind of sheds light on that.
Right.
Because not everyone can, just because you can't process information in a certain way, doesn't mean that the brain isn't processing. It's just a different way.
Different way.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, about the elections, which are days away from by the time that you see this episode here, but Arizona is getting heated after Arizona Republican Kari Lake. I almost said Ricky Lake here, but
Ricky.
Go Ricky. It's your birthday. But Kari Lake, who is another person I can't stand, is currently in a close race with her Democratic opponent, Katie Hobbs, who's currently serving as Arizona's Secretary of State. Hobbs' national profile rose in the aftermath of the 2020 election and the Republican efforts to solve doubt over the presidential result in Arizona. However, Lake, who has backing the you-know-who, has repeatedly promoted his false claims about the 2020 election over the election frauds and the other nonsense I can't stand here that we're still hearing about. But one thing for sure about Kari Lake is that she is not backing down on that claim and won't commit one thing that she said on CNN. Take a look at this.
Let's look ahead,
Jana,
and let's talk about
Jana.
the 2022 election. Will you accept the results of your election, Ms. Lake?
I'm running against a twice convicted racist who cost the state taxpayers $3 million because of her hatred for people of color. She paid a woman of color in her office $30,000 less than men doing the same job. Last week, we learned she held a slave auction, a mock slave auction in high school. We saw her running from a black reporter, hiding in the bathroom from him.
My question is, will you accept the results of your election in November?
I'm going to win the election, and I will accept that result.
If you lose, will you accept that?
I'm going to win the election, and I will accept that result, because the people of Arizona will never support and vote for a coward like Katie Hobbs, who won't show up on a debate stage. She's single-handedly destroying a 20-year tradition of gubernatorial debates because of her cowardice. So I know already, no momentum behind her. The polls are in our favor, and we're going to win this election. I'm 100% confident of that.
So what happens if she doesn't win this election? Will she still accept the result if she loses?
We'll never know until she wins. She's gonna win.
You really think she's gonna win?
Absolutely.
And so you're saying you're still gonna buy the fact that there's still election fraud in America?
That's America with the 3 capital K's for you. Are we confused? Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious! What on earth? Like what is going on here? There is no evidence of election fraud at all here. Like what kind of nonsense is that here?
Like you have a bit of a controversial opinion.
I do.
Over that, you were kind of applauding that you think she's going to win.
Yeah.
Why?
I appreciate her confidence.
You like her confidence.
I appreciate her relentlessness. I also hear that her opponent, I never endorse racist people or racism, so it seems like that's what she's running off of. And so, yeah, I'm definitely on the bag that she's going to win. And so we'll know then.
Yeah, but if she doesn't win, then how's that going to make everybody feel, even the people of Arizona?
The issues are still presented. She still talked about the truth, and she said something that now people can't unhear.
Yeah, part of there's certain parts that she said that were true, even when she talked about that we're all entitled to our First Amendment rights. That is true.
Right.
There's no disagreement on that here.
Sure.
But the thing that just irks me is
Yeah.
when you bring out false information that doesn't prove your point, like the election fraud here and the 2020 election. Like that, where is the evidence of fraud coming from? Because there's no evidence that shows that here.
I mean, I think it's a dangerous territory to just say, I'm not going to accept if I lose the election.
Is it? She said
yes,
it.
it is. And
said
that's why I
it.
think
Yeah.
she's a very dangerous person to have in our political world, along with, 45 who didn't accept the results of the election and people stormed the Capitol.
So we're talking about the fact that this woman has made a commentary about election fraud, and because of that, she is not suited to be in her position, and she also can't accept that she won't win.
Yeah.
So that is the delicate.
She's basically backing 45, basically.
Okay.
Which I really don't understand why.
She's just doing it publicly. You know how many people are doing it in their closets, in their home, quietly?
Do you know,
I'm confused.
I wonder how many people have taken breaks here on this show, because we got to take one of them. We'll be back here, all right?
That was a good one.
Wow, bold opinion.
The Mueller investigation, the Mueller report, the two that led to trouble for Trump. Don't miss David's exclusive one-on-one guiding spotlight interview with Brooklyn Law School professor Bill Araiza, breaking it all down. Next.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all. If I could go back, I would. But I can't.
In this week's Guiding Spotlight, we'll be shedding light and flashing back to sharing you the details of the Mueller investigation and the Mueller report from 2019 that led to the start of trouble of 45. I sat down with Brooklyn Law School professor Bill Araiza to get his point of view on the Mueller investigation and his report, and asked him briefly on where we go from here as a country after finding out about the results from the investigation. It is one of the segments that has never been seen nor shared with you on the Spotlight. We'd like to share it with you to be in the know of the facts and the truth. You know, we've been talking about this Mueller report that was just came out Friday, March 22nd, 2019. And I want to read a little bit of something from the letter that was of this Mueller report. That on Friday, on that exact day, the special counsel submitted a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions he has reached as required by 28 CFR 600.8. This report is entitled Report on the Russian Investigation into the Russian Interference in the 2016 Presidential Election. Although my review is ongoing, I believe that it is the public interest to describe the report and to summarize the principle by the special counsel and the results of his investigation. That's all I'm going to read from there. But I want to bring up something that from the media of what CNN found. So from what they've learned, that they learned that there was no collusion, and where the guy in the White House did not conspire with Russia, according to Attorney General Barr. And Mueller did not exonerate, I'm going to say this name, Trump, and evidence lacking for obstruction of justice, and there was no new indictments. But what Trump said is that the president went beyond the conclusions of Barr's letter and said the findings exonerated him. This was an illegal takedown that failed, and hopefully somebody's going to be looking at the other side. Do you believe this is fair on this?
Well, it is certainly an overstatement, at the very least, on the president's part, to say that the report, as described by Attorney General Barr, represents a total and complete vindication and exoneration. It does not. Right. Indeed, the letter says that the report did not exonerate the president on the obstruction charge. And so for the president to say that it was a complete exoneration is simply, at best, an overstatement, and frankly is factually seriously incorrect.
Mueller explicitly did not exonerate the president. While he made no conclusion on obstruction of justice, Attorney General William Barr made his own decision not to prosecute Trump, which is no surprise considering Trump appointed Barr knowing he doesn't believe a sitting president can obstruct justice. Do you think the results could change where he could be exonerated, or do you believe he may not be exonerated, he's still innocent until proven guilty based on collusion?
Well, it seems as though there will be no prosecutions of the president on either of these charges. According to the Attorney General, there was no collusion. And according to the Attorney General, while the report did not exonerate the president on the obstruction charge, the Attorney General himself decided that there were insufficient grounds to charge on obstruction. And that's even leaving out the question of whether a sitting president can be indicted.
Collusion is not a conspiracy. Mueller was looking at the legal definition of criminal conspiracy, which is different than the threshold of collusion Congress will be using for impeachment. How would that change on either the side of Republicans and Democrats? Like, who do you think will have more power? Or if someone has the power, do you think will have the power, and why would you believe that?
Well, impeachment, which is what we're talking about, is a political matter, is in fact a matter that goes beyond the technicalities of the criminal law to encompass things like maladministration of office, misuse of power, even if that conduct doesn't rise to the level of a crime. And so if more information comes out, then that presumably will strengthen the hands of those who think that regardless of the Mueller report, impeachment may be called for. Whether that means necessarily Democrats will be strengthened, whether that convinces some Republicans to go along with a move to impeach, that really depends on what information, if any, in fact, ends up coming out.
We all know that number 45 chose Barr, but he's basically like trying to hide something. Like, what do you think he's trying to hide from the Mueller report that no one else should know about? Because it's time to like get the report out so that way we know what's in there and what he did and what he did not do.
Well, Attorney General Mueller, Attorney General Barr, in the letter noted that there might be, for example, grand jury information that is in the report that perhaps, according to Attorney General Barr, should be redacted before the report goes to Congress. It's that kind of information that I think is going to be the subject of a fight between Congress on the one hand, or the House on the one hand, and the White House on the other with regard to what gets released or not. And, it really is a question of whether, in fact, the House should have access to the full report, including sensitive grand jury information. This is somewhat untested water, but it's the role of the House and of the Senate is to conduct oversight of the executive branch, and that kind of means oversight, and that kind of means everything that's in a report like the Mueller report.
Why do you think the guy in the White House that's running the country now chose Attorney General Barr as Attorney General, in your view?
Well, of course, we can't know what's in the president's mind.
Right.
Having said that, we do know that then Mr. Barr, as a private citizen, wrote an unsolicited memo to the White House expressing Mr. Barr's opposition to the special counsel's investigation. That seems to at least provide the possibility, or raises the possibility, that the president chose Mr. Barr to be his attorney general because he trusted Mr. Barr to run interference for him when it came to the ultimate disclosure of this report.
Right. Mueller's investigation has led to indictments, guilty pleas, or convictions of a half-dozen members of Trump's inner circle. He is the most corrupt president in American history. Between Mueller's investigation and what we already know, there's been enough evidence to impeach Trump 10 times over. Why would they do it so long? Why couldn't they just take like less than a year or just get it done quick? I mean, there's a lot of obstruction to be involved in here. So, but what do you think about why it should take so long to get the investigation done under who's being investigated for doing these offenses as a president?
Yeah. Complex investigations take a long time. So, for example, with the Mueller investigation, you could imagine that in order to work his way up the hierarchy of the Trump campaign, of the Trump White House, of the persons involved, he had to begin with underlings. He had to build a factual case that would and develop information that would allow him to engage in more effective questioning and investigation of people higher up. So you have to build a foundation of the investigation in order to know what to ask the people at the next rung. You have to build that level of the investigation, excuse me, in order to know what to ask the people up the next rung, and that takes a long time.
Right.
It takes analysis, it takes scheduling of meetings, it takes preparing of questions, it takes processing of the answers, and it takes strategizing about the very next steps, all to get just to the very next rung. And there are presumably several rungs, multiple rungs, that the investigation had to climb up in order to get to the very highest levels. Don't forget, this was all an investigation that was designed to culminate in the famous interview of the president that never took place.
Right.
And so in order to make that interview, which of course never happened, but in order to make it as effective as possible, the Mueller team had to have all its investigative ducks already in a row. And that takes a lot of time.
Barr's letter doesn't change the bottom line. Mueller's report only concerns of 2 of Trump's impeachable offenses. Congress can no longer use the ongoing investigation as an excuse to avoid holding the president accountable. Robert Mueller, he has sent people to a prison or obstructed people like Michael Flynn, for example.
Yes.
And there are 3 others. I can't get their names. I think Feldman.
What is Manafort?
Manafort, yes.
Papadopoulos.
Papadopoulos.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
do you really think he did good in like obstructing those men during the investigation?
Well, he certainly brought serious charges against each of these men.
Mm-hmm.
As you may remember, there was a bit of an outcry when Mr. Manafort got what seemed to be a relatively light sentence.
Yes.
Now, of course, the very next week after that, he was sentenced to a number of more years in prison.
Right.
And so he's going to be spending a substantial amount of time in jail.
Right. But the question to bring that up is, why would they give him only a certain amount of time in jail, but then later change it up later, even though more things have been coming in? But what do you think it could be the case in that situation?
Sure. It's a very simple explanation. There were 2 sets of charges in 2 different judicial districts, one in Virginia, one in the District of Columbia, 2 different judges, and therefore it would be as if someone had committed a crime in New York and then driven away into New Jersey and committed a crime in New Jersey. There would be 2 separate court cases in 2 separate courts with 2 separate sentences because of 2 separate crimes being committed.
So, throughout the times Robert Mueller has been doing an investigation, many people have described him as some type of investigative legend who's doing what he's doing just to make sure we get out the facts for the American people. What do you view, how would you view Robert Mueller as a person doing the investigation?
Every indication is that he did the job carefully and honorably, and amazingly, given that he did it in Washington, D.C., with no leaks.
But do you believe that, because the thing is that James Comey back in 2016 or 2017 started doing the investigation on Russia, but then he got fired by the president because of that.
Yes.
And so if James Comey had not been fired, do you believe that we would have never had the Mueller investigation? And do you believe the investigation would have been completely done by James Comey if he had not been fired?
Yes, I believe so. Indeed, it was, as you suggest, it was the firing of Comey that triggered the calls for the special prosecutor to begin with. Had the president not fired James Comey, then it's quite likely none of this would have happened.
Our special thanks to Bill Araiza of the Brooklyn Law School for breaking down the information, the truth, and the facts. We'll be right back. This has been Guiding Spotlight. We'll be right back.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
So welcome back. Emily, you're doing some ad-libbing here because there's some horses and carriages that occurred of incidents, so go ahead.
Okay, don't put the horse before the carriage. Old saying, but didn't really work.
Too
okay,
late.
Thank you.
Too late.
Okay, so I wanted. Oh my God!
We're good. That was good.
David,
just go ahead,
right.
Okay?
I think
I'm still not used to this new desk here.
It's mayhem in the studio. No, okay, bring us back.
Get some Allstate here. Oh, yeah.
Never know what's going to happen here at the Spotlight. So I did want to bring this issue up. It's as an animal lover, this is near and dear to my heart. In early October, a carriage horse collapsed in the street, and there's unfortunately some really graphically disturbing footage, both photos and video, that was captured of the incident of the horse attached to the carriage collapsing in a midtown street. You can take a look at some of the footage, but warning, it is very disturbing. And a lot of New Yorkers, and this isn't the first time this has happened, so a lot of New Yorkers are really fed up with the carriage horse industry, and there's a vocal debate calling for our elected officials to ban carriage horses. But then on the other hand, the people within the industry claim that I guess they love the horses, and the horses are part of this old tradition, and they take good care of the horses. Personally, I will just jump in here before I ask you guys for your opinions, because I do want to say I believe they should ban the carriage horses.
I agree.
And there's an Instagram called Voters for Animal Rights.
Nice.
That's taking a lead on that here in New York City, with the hashtag ban carriage horses. I mean, it would be interesting to hear more thoughts on this. I mean, some people are calling it animal abuse, but there are people calling it saying they saved the animals. So it's what do you guys think?
Listen, these horse carriages get on my nerves every time, because it's like you hold up traffic when on a busy New York street, no matter if it's rush hour or what, and it's like, come on. People gotta get to these places in a timely manner, and especially when you're crossing the street, you got a lot of horse coming out of their behinds. I'm like, I try to avoid stepping into it because it's still stuck in the middle of the road or the street. I'm like, ugh.
Well said. Yeah, right on.
Bingo.
Right on. I definitely think that there's something to. Oh, damn! I wanted you to bingo. There we go. Thank you for that organization. I think a lot of us should look into it. I think that there's something to be said, though, that as we're banning horses, we have to talk about the tourism industry and how New York is fueled by that industry in some way, shape, or form. And another layer of like whose jobs are going to be lost and who's going to lose out on profit. Yes, capitalism. If this industry, specifically with the horses, that it's $165 an hour, who's losing jobs, who's losing opportunities because of that. Not that that should justify the cruelties of animals, of course not, but just thinking of the well-rounded point of view of who's kind of consequenced because of that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I do think not only are they calling for the banning, but they're calling for electric carriages.
Wow.
So replace the jobs. And I think that's a really important point that you brought up. Whenever you ban something, you don't just want to say, get rid of it. You want to say, how does this impact the economy? Right. And how can there be a better economic move coming out of this?
I wonder how these electronic carriages are going to work here. Yeah.
Well, insert some photos from the design, because there's some proposals out there, so we can maybe show a little video of how it looks. But because I did see it, it looks really cool.
Okay.
Like they keep the old school traditional carriage, and then there's, something that in the front it just goes. I don't know. We'll have to take a look at the video of it, but yeah, if they can replace that. With electric carriage and find homes for the horses, because a lot of the people working there as carriage drivers are saying, oh, we save these horses from being slaughtered.
Which is such an interesting point to me.
But then there's other animal rescue groups saying, we'll rehome the horses. We will bring them to a farm and let them live a beautiful life.
Just be free.
And I see these tourists driving in carriages. Riding in carriages, and they're so happy, and I just kind of want to scream at them like, you're abusing this animal.
Well, that's because there's traffic behind there, and there's also, and because if you whip the horse, the nasty stuff is going to come out of there behind, and I'll have to just turn my face and go like, we'll be right back. All right.
Yeah.
Great having you. Incredible women. I wish they had those kind of cool careers for women when we were growing up.
So in this flashback, we're all the same age?
Yeah.
What does everyone want to be when they grow up?
If I say 2 jobs, do I get extra credit?
No.
I want to make immersive video games. I want to revolutionize 3D printing. I want to analyze data from the cloud.
I want to be a meteor.
You mean meteorologist?
No.
That's great, Al. Follow your dreams.
For the record, I was a baby in the 70s.
Welcome back. George and Amal Clooney celebrated their 8th-year wedding anniversary not too long ago, and they gave Gayle King the update on their marriage and relationship status. Take a look at this.
George Clooney's, at the time, Amal, George Clooney's getting married?
Yeah. Come
George
on,
Clooney's
man.
Getting married?
8 years. Yeah.
Because you were known as a confirmed bachelor, but
Yes.
you met Amal Clooney, and what happened to you, George?
I was no longer confirmed. It was easy. It was the minute she walked in the door, I was just, taken by her. And the fun part was, I didn't know whether, she would like me or any of those things. And then
Wait, George, stop it.
And then we
You
went.
didn't know if Amal would like you?
Yes, and and then she's this extraordinarily, fun, smart, beautiful, great woman, and it was. I was just very taken with her.
What is it that you give to each other that makes you stay together? I think it starts with love, George. I do think that.
Well, it does start with love. I mean,
Yeah.
that's sort of the whole secret to it. It's never, ever been even... I mean, it's funny, that's not even a question that we would even think of. I mean, it's just been easy. Listen,
Has it been easy?
Easy. Like, the easiest thing in our lives, by far. We've never had a
It's maddening
argument.
to some of our friends. I have a cousin, actually, every time we see him, he's like, his first question is, so have you had an argument yet? Like, before he
Seriously?
says
You haven't had an
hello.
argument?
Yeah. Would you like us to right now? Does that make you feel better?
No.
Could be a first.
They look great. They haven't aged. They're like reverse aging. I guess that's what money and celebrity can do for you.
Exactly. Exactly. I have so many interesting thoughts with them. I don't know. They're clearly both astoundingly beautiful, and that definitely adds on to the lack of frustration. But I also think I'm going to make it a race-based thing that when you don't have different oppression-filled cycles to worry about, your love could be full of freedom and amorousness. So cheers to them, of course, in their love. And I think Amal is also a lawyer and an advocate, so I definitely know they're putting good fruits in the world. Your face, David, tell me more.
I'm just trying to figure out how on earth do they last 8 years without any arguments.
Because they don't have nothing to fight over. Their people are free. They're not worried about oppression or housing systems. They're great. They're great. Right now,
Yes.
that's a different layer of the conversation. But
I mean, wow. It just makes me speechless at times because, when you get to 8 years of marriage or relationship, sometimes before you get to the 8th year, an argument will occur or a fight or whatever occurs. Because I barely see that at times, but it's like, luckily I'm not in any relationship, thankfully. But
he's free, ladies and gentlemen.
He's a confirmed bachelor.
There we go. Literally.
Confirmed.
No, it's not about me being a confirmed bachelor. It's about focusing on yourself and improving on yourself.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
because
Self-love.
obviously, if you put yourself in a situation where you're not focusing on yourself and you're rushing a relationship or a marriage, then trouble will occur later on.
Okay.
That's all I got to say on this. Okay.
But do you think they're telling the truth? Or are they putting on a show, Because maybe they're too perfect.
There may be too
Like, I was
perfect.
like, come on.
Oh, my goodness.
No, it's a good point. I agree.
you know, people, and that's part of the Instagram culture too. Everyone's always trying to pretend like they have a perfect life. Like, would you be surprised if they file for divorce tomorrow?
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a
That's what it
Clooney
is.
conspiracy theorist. Clooney truther.
Clooney truther is good for both of them.
What do you think, David? David wants to believe in love. He's
That's
like, no,
it.
don't burst
That's
my
it.
bubble.
8
I'll
years.
find my Amal.
We'll be right back.
Stay right where you are, because we're giving you the inside scoop to this year's Summer for the City summer-long event at Lincoln Center that had people rejoicing. Next.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. Talk with your doctor to create a treatment plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
Oh man, I can't believe I'm missing this. Okay, Grandma. I see you.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. It keeps you, your community, and loved ones protected. Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
Whether it was rejoicing the night away on the dance floor, reclaiming rituals hindered by the pandemic, or sharing moments for collective remembering, this year's Summer for the City and Lincoln Center is New York City, is what really made a lot of us individuals come together, celebrate, have a good lit time, and the spotlight was there, and we're giving you all access exclusive. Take a look.
Hey everyone, we're here at Summer for the City, right here in Lincoln Center on the Upper West Side. We just saw an amazing and touching performance, and there is definitely more to come. This is the very first annual event like this since the pandemic. There hasn't been a lot of this going on, and hopefully this will be happening every year from now on. So as we stand here surrounded by a bunch of people, food, and good energy, we're really excited to see what comes next, and you'll be seeing some behind the scenes here on the Spotlight. So who am I chatting with today?
Hi, my name's Anthony.
Hi, Anthony. So how did you like the performance that we just saw?
Wow, a really profound performance from the Black Hours. New York City is a city where we can get spoken word, we can get poetry, we can get live music, we can be outdoor, we can be with each other, incredible stage design. And I'm affected because all these elements came together really nicely. And the subject matter behind Black Hours and Cyrus Aaron, it's always poignant. It's always emotional, it's always serious, and it's always joyful.
I have so many memories of Lincoln Center as a kid, so it was really nice to be here as an adult and performer.
What was your favorite part or favorite song that you guys sang tonight? I know it's hard for me to even choose one in my head, but
So I think for me, it was the first one. Maybe not. I don't know. It was kind of all of it, I'm not gonna lie, because it was a journey through the emotions. So it was really nice to kind of feel everything. And not necessarily stop, but just keep going and just keep revealing. So that was
The Black Hour is the collective of musicians and vocalists and poetry, but it's also everyone who's in attendance. And so once everyone realizes that, I'm here in this space, I'm welcome, invited into this space, I'm welcome into this space, then we feel that energy back on stage. And so right out the gate, we can see the connection, we can see people really trying to get a sense of what this is.
Yeah.
So we appreciated it.
I mean, look at this. Just for us. That's what it felt like as the music kind of like came to life.
Yeah.
It really was emotional and so incredible. Yeah. What do you do after this to kind of decompress and process all of the raw emotion that you just gave to us?
Yeah, I'll go eat, I'll get a meal, and then just like mellow out and just reflect and think about, what transpired, what we felt, what we saw, witnessed in the crowd and amongst each other too, and just mellow out, yeah.
Summer in the City, for the city, this whole curated performance is really special because it's an opportunity for people. It gives access and is a free opportunity for people to see well-matured artists choreographing and dancing in pieces. It's not always, a dance performance might not always be the most accessible thing due to ticket prices or where it's happening, but this is a great opportunity for anyone walking through the area, anyone walking through Lincoln Center to be able to see working artists, people who are doing it every day, rehearsing all the time, and working really hard to be able to put things on like this.
And the piece that we created was by a beautiful artist named Connie Shao, and she created this work with what felt like such trust in both us, and I think trust between the connection that we share together, and just giving us a lot of space to test that trust, to test our connection, and most of all I felt just to feel the presence of the two of us together on stage.
Yeah, it's very much about the joy of being outside, the joy of performing for anyone who's around, the joy of being together and sharing that space together and then feeding off of each other's joy. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece that she trusted us with.
And I'd say nerves are...
You never know who's going to come. And you never know who's going to come, but that almost makes it better because then where it's just about us having fun and trying to pull in whoever might be watching.
Hey, this is David. We are here at Summer for the City 2022. This is a fun lit night here. I can't believe I'm having the best time of my life. See you here at the spotlight here. Yo, it's got lit here. Woo!
Hey, this is David Martinez here at Lincoln Center. Summer for the City 2022 has officially ended. August 13th, 2022 was the last day to have the fun time here. So today, August 14th, 2022, which is this evening as we're standing here, it's the last time you get to see this disco ball right behind me. It'll be back for next summer 2023, and we hope to see everyone there then. And we'll see you back at the studio. Thank you. I'm glad to say that Summer for the City will be back next year with more fun, excitement, etc., etc. And we're all glad here. So, and it's just what's interesting about Summer for the City is that, you get to just not only meet new people, but also get to like they're like young individuals our grown group age that do like those type of performances and acts, and it was just so great, you know, getting to see their talent, their work, and expressing their voices of what they think and just like where they see themselves going forward. So
yeah, that's incredible.
It really is incredible. So on that note, we'll be right back.
Nobody likes an awkward silence, but you can actually use it for something good.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Do you want to meet a family with a transgender kid? Here we are. We love our kids unconditionally, and we will never stop fighting for them. Stand with us. Protect our families.
You know, it's great to be back revisiting our old location after 5 years, you know, and we're just glad to be at this location and still glad that we're still doing the show and enjoying it and giving the young viewers a voice. Emily and Chrisel, it's always a pleasure to have you both on. Before we go, I want to ask Chrisel one thing because, you know, I mentioned at the top of the show about the documentary. You want to tell us more about that? Because I know, because I was at the screening not too long ago.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for being there, right? That's how we met. We wouldn't have been here without it. So I basically was a part of a cross-country road trip with this organization called Road Trip Nation. And so what they do is that they select 3 participants from around the country, around the United States, I'll say. And you're basically traveling in a huge green RV from state to state, and you're interviewing different, for us it was public servants along the way. So I traveled from Washington, D.C. all the way to California, and they documented the whole experience. They're partners with PBS, so you can find Road Trip Nation. The documentary is called Serving Change. And it is basically an opportunity to just learn from different public officials and say, what are you doing, how do you do it, and how can we learn from you? So folks, check it out. It's a really good experience, an educational moment for us all. I'm so glad you were there to kind of witness that screening.
And I'm so glad that you said hi to my uncle while you're in Washington, D.C.
Of course I did.
And I'm so glad. I never thought I ran into another long-lost cousin because your sister named Christy is also a friend of the show. Who she's been here before.
Yes,
here, so
Martinez playing. Yeah.
I think that's coming soon next week. I don't know. We'll just wait and see. But listen, you're welcome here anytime. And both of you are. I mean, it's enjoyable here. You know, we're soon about to wrap up our month-long show from the Firehouse. Time is going so quick here. But until next time, good luck, be well, be safe. Continue to express yourself and your voices, and take a little time to have fun and enjoy. I want everyone to say this out loud with me because I need this uplifting spirit. It ain't too little time to have fun and enjoy the spotlight. And that is a wrap here, y'all. Yes.
What you want and only what you want.